There we go. Yes, we are live. We are live. Hello, hello, everybody. We are live. We are live. All right, let's get organized. Bina's still vacationing and out and about, so we don't have Bina, but all good, all good. We do miss you, though, Bina. We do miss you. You do make a difference. Ah, just was thinking about appropriateness and people's sense of appropriateness. And I see this every day. Now, I do realize that they are somewhat peculiarly motivated, but I see it with posts, right? Uh, I mean, somebody made a post about being in debt, right? And it's like, did you look at any of the other posts in this group? Many self-improvement groups are business money focused, right? They focused on enhancing your career, making more money, and this is self-improvement. No, it's not. It's making more money. Doesn't improve the self, right? Improves your finances, maybe, yes, or your ability to succeed in your career. But this is not self-improvement. This really fascinates me. When self-improvement first came to be a term used commonly and popularly, right? And that wasn't all that long ago, right? We're looking at around about in the 70s, in the 80s. There was no self-improvement section in the bookstores or the libraries before then. Oh, because I saw those, and then slowly they started making a little bit of shelf space, and then they made more and more and more. Now you go to the bookshelves, and it's like, huge, multiple shelves. Hey, where do you come from? Anyway, my beard doesn't grow evenly. It grows more on this little patch over here for some reason. Who knows why? The weirdness of the world. Anyway, so self-improvement, when it started, obviously was about improving the self, right? Your character, how you behave, things like working on your patience or, getting rid of, negative qualities like irritation or anger or impatience, etc., right? So it was improving the self. Somewhere along the line, somebody got this all confused and started doing this with business. But what fascinates me again, since I'm commenting on appropriateness, is they don't think of the title. It's self-improvement. You know what I mean? You're not listening to yourself, right? It just absolutely fascinates me how this, but also so it's inappropriate. But now we get people posting. They just assume, oh, self-improvement. This is all self-improvement groups are about money. No, they're not. Did you look at any of the posts? Did you scroll down the timeline? I remove all money posts, right? I get a couple every day typically, and get a lot of nonsense every day too. I mean, those videos of, I don't know, snakes and whatever. Um, now, those are completely and utterly inappropriate. And I mention this now because we mustn't assume always, right? So we need to understand that, yes, some people have no sense of appropriateness. Hello, 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 Ramsey. Hello, 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 Ramsey. Norma, let Norma know that I'm here. I'm here, Norma. I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. Does this give me a link? Glad to hear, Ramsey. Give Norma that, and then I'll continue with the sharing. Oh, here you go, Norma. Here's the link. Here's the link. I thought you'd be. Oh, Norma's not online right now. She was 5 minutes ago, and no, 7 minutes ago. So I'm not sure what happened. Anyway, so now, right, we know not everybody's sense of appropriateness is kind of tuned in. Let's just say it that way. And I'm just fascinated at how what's kind of a duh and very obvious doesn't quite click and connect to people. Now, I mean, I have people posting stuff for like their local city council meeting stuff, I don't know, posts like about discussions of the what pump to put up or something. Completely disconnected to this. Completely. I'm like, and it's local, in some small town or village or somewhere in some different parts of the world. It's like, dude, how has this got anything to do with anything? I mean, all right, maybe you're in charge of PR or something to get attention to this, but if there's even one person from your town or little village in this group, that would be a lot. You might as well just go and email them directly. You know what I mean? You're gonna have more luck. It's just fascinating, absolutely fascinating. This gross inappropriateness of people sometimes. It's like you wonder what's going on. But then you might see those snake videos or the cars or I don't know, whatever, the viral supposed to be videos and I don't know. They always got hashtag funny. Half of them are very unfunny and they, but they send them. So you say, well, why on earth would somebody post this? I just removed one now with a snake around a monkey, right? You say, why on earth would they think this? I mean, that's like really off the wall appropriateness. But see, there's a hidden agenda. Those videos, because of Facebook owning Instagram, and they're trying to get Instagram to compete with TikTok, they pay people for those videos. The more views those videos get, the more you get paid, right? And I don't know, this seems to be an part of the national economy in Thailand, by the way, because 90% of the time the people are from Thailand or the surrounding countries, Philippines, Vietnam, so on. It's just fascinating. I don't know why it's super popular there, other than other places, where you'd think it, but anyway, they mostly come from there for some unknown reason, but they're getting paid. So you see, when you see that at first, you're like, holy moly, man, how is this appropriate? It's like, where are you falling out? I mean, I see other stuff, and it makes me wonder when people are inappropriate. Okay, like the person posting for the business, them is just a bit oblivious. They see a self-improvement group, they don't really go and look. They post probably to a whole bunch of them, and they go, right? So yes, it's inappropriate, but it's inappropriate not because they know what it is and they post anyway. It's just because they don't know, right? So it's more unawareness than inappropriateness. But there's like I said, some of those people are posting their city council, and I don't know. Just it's hard to describe the level of peculiar posts that I remove every day or I don't accept. Right? It's just astonishing. Um, But those ones that are those weird, supposedly viral videos, I mean, they hope it goes viral, of course, or they just, I see the same videos multiple times and then it goes for like a week or so or a couple of days, and then it's a new batch of nonsense videos. Those people are getting paid for. So it's always good to keep in mind that even though something may seem obvious, it isn't always, right? That there's non-obvious reasons for things sometimes, right? So it's appropriate in their context. Of course, you don't really have much morality and you don't care. You just, you know, spamming, right? So with lack of morality. But there's a logic to spamming. There's a sensibility to it, even though it's not particularly moral, right? And not nice. Yeah, but there's still a logic to it. And this is important to understand that yes, people are grossly inappropriate lots of times, but there's almost always some kind of a logic to it, right? People very seldom, at least I don't really know where people are truly behaving randomly, right? It's very difficult for people to do or to behave without any motivation or logic or sensibility at all. Now, when I say motivation or logic or sensibility, this is something else entirely to what we think is logic and rational and sensible, right? Like the person posting for their money stuff, how to get out of debt. Yeah, it makes sense to them because they believe this is a group that's what self improvement's all about. They have no clue. There's no awareness that of self, the inner self, your character, stuff like this, right? Your ethics, your morals, your integrity, your spirituality, that kind of stuff. No, that doesn't exist in their world, right? Um, so, but now also that when you're looking at this just that little bit deeper, we see, sometimes, okay, that's sort of understandable because the person is, they just in a bubble. But then you look at other posts and it's helpful to try and figure out where the internal sensibility is within the bubble, right? Which I have a very nice kind of a bubble background. It's a very, very complex bubble, but that is how it is sometimes, right? And then we look at madness. What's madness to us is not mad to the person. What's going on inside them, almost always there's a logic and a sensibility to it. And much of that is also about assumptions, right? When shadow thoughts just create an idea, and then we sort of believe that, well, yeah, yeah, and now we don't think it through, you don't figure it out, and then we just assume that because we thought it, it's going to be valid. No, sorry. That's why, Norma asked me, why do I insist on thinking things through to the end? And that's one reason. The main reason is I don't like to waste time. But if you don't think it through to the end, you just sit with this idea, this belief that it must be. And oh boy, we do need to be cautious of this must be, right? That we just assume it so, because we just trusting our belief. It's a peculiar kind of an arrogance. It's not the usual kind of arrogance. It's just, well, I'm not thinking it's true because I think it. I'm just thinking it's true because, well, it's kind of duh, but it's not a duh, right? And we so often assume things to be does when they aren't actually does. And this is a very powerful, powerful, powerful thing. A huge, big deal to pay attention to, that we don't get stuck in these peculiar assumptions, which then, of course, make us inappropriate, right? And to look at the greater context of things, right? Like, just pay attention to the um, pay attention to the environment, pay attention to what's going on, pay attention to your intent, your goals, your motivations, and to the context, not just the small little bubble context, but the bigger context, right? Uh, like, this is an international group, etc. And you posting stuff. I mean, literally, I've seen for people posting for little villages, right? Which, I don't know, maybe a few thousand people in the village. Yeah. And it's like I said, like about the city council. Like, really? How many of people in your village do you think are actually in this group? Well, I don't know. And then people post in whatever language they're posting in, right? Right, there is Google Translate, but that doesn't work for memes. Again, appropriateness, right? They don't think outside the bubble. Everything in their world they're seeing translated for the most part. But if you make a meme in this, I have no idea, and I can't translate it because it's a photo, right? It's a picture. It's not readable. Or at least not often or mostly. So it's just fascinating to me, that, and I learn from it. I say, don't have your head up a bubble, right? Uh, hang on, let me just respond here real quick. Uh, all right. So my main point here is, that yes, I understand that um, that uh, all right, yeah, yeah. Somebody wants to buy some artwork I made. So It's very interesting. They responded to me commenting on yesterday's live to get my attention because I didn't see the message. It's some more sensible appropriateness there, which is good. Anyway, so this thing about appropriateness is very powerful, especially when we start paying attention to our own behavior, right? And we learn from this. Like I said, don't live life with your head stuck up your bubble. Yeah, it can happen, can happen. It's powerful and it's dangerous. Just pay attention to the environment, pay attention to context, right? Pay attention to what's going on, pay attention to what you're trying to accomplish, what you're trying to do. Just, I mean, we so, get into say act, act, act. Yes, but act with awareness. It's like love with awareness. So it's a common theme that I come back to very often. Love without awareness can be grossly inappropriate. I mean, just tragically so, and cause a lot of problems and can be very sad. So we have to pay attention. In order to be appropriate, we need to be paying attention. We need to be aware. We need to be connected, right? So you have awareness, attention, attunement, yes, which is when you're really connected, you're really aware of pretty much everything around you, right? And how the world works and what's going on, right? So attunement is a big deal, right? Yeah, very cool. Brilliant. Norma's here. Brilliant, 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 brilliant. Wonderful, Norma. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. All right. So good. Good time. Just about to start now on going over the capital R reading uh, of the second half of chapter 16, right? The one we're on now, chapter 16, Boynal and the Anomalies, and we're in the second half because it's a very long chapter. And as Bina said, and I've repeated a couple of times, very real chapter. This is somebody messages Biella, and it's anomalous the way the message comes. The message itself is anomalous, and now she's applying capital H hearing to this message. Somebody got a question they asked, and they got a conundrum, a bit of a personal problem, and they're going through it. Now, this is very important here, right? Applying capital H hearing is not necessarily meaning that you're acting as a therapist. It is incredibly helpful, capital H hearing, for therapists or counselors or anybody of that nature in any sphere, right? Just with your friends, capital H hearing is incredibly powerful. But her intent is to hear what's going on, not to give advice. Yes, she shares much which some will see as advice. But if you pay close attention, she's sharing what is connected and what is appropriate with, and not giving advice, very specifically not giving advice. Because when you share, you are saying, here is something, right? And you share what it is. You're saying, here it is, right? And you present it as a choice, as an option. This is just my perspective on it, or a perspective, or she'll give multiple perspectives, right? But when you're giving advice, you're telling somebody, this is what you should do. This is what you're supposed to do. This is what's right to do. How do you know? Yeah. May seem so from what you hear, but in the same point that I made about appropriateness, we don't always know all of the factors going on, right? And so we're missing some of the information. We don't ever know what's going on fully inside somebody's head, right? I mean, we may get a good indication, yes, but we don't truly know. So when you start to tell people, you assume you know. And we have to be very careful of this. The moment you start to assume you know what's going on inside somebody else's head is the moment that you claim arrogance, whether you may do so now deliberately or inadvertently, doesn't matter, right? So you'll never see Biella giving advice. If she's asked, maybe yes, but never unsolicited advice. And even when she's asked, she'll still present it in the sharing way, because this is just, she's become used to that, right? And typically she'll say, uh, you know, if in this is, yeah, the options, this one is the most probable in my opinion, and for me as I see it, right, always from that angle. Never ever will she presume to know what's going on inside somebody else. The moment you start doing this, you get lost, right? And you can see it all over the internet. I mean, we see it every day in the group, every single post pretty much, even though it's in the group rules to say, share and don't give advice, don't tell. It doesn't matter. People think this is what they should do, right? So they all make their posts in that telling manner. And if you actually pay attention to psychology a little bit, just think of your own psychology. The more we're told, the less we listen. Just a general rule, right? You can see this. Uh, we don't really care to be told. Yeah. We listen and but we don't really care to be told. Why? Because we know in some deep part of our psychology that if I just accept what's being told, all I'm doing is I'm accepting the data, the information, and it just goes straight to my hard drive and it sits there in the files. It doesn't mean anything. Right? But when I'm given choices, when somebody shares something and say, well, even if it's just one thing, the choice between use this or not, but it's presented freely. So I can use it in any way I see fit. Yeah, but when you're told, you got to do it the way they say it's done. Otherwise, it doesn't work or whatever, right? You kind of get boxed and restricted and confined, and we rebel against that. But there's a deeper reason to it. Our deeper selves know that even if I accept the thing completely 100% the way it is, I have to make it my own. So I have to accept without accepting to start with, which means I've got to think it through to the end. Yes, Norma, to the end, right? Because you can think a thing through 95% of the way and it doesn't work. All right. It's like, you're baking bread or you're making, any kind of cooking or most cooking, I suppose, got some leeway there. But any like a scientific experiment or stuff like that, right? If you do it 95% of the way, you have to go to the end. That last 5% can profoundly change what's going on, right? Makes a lot of difference. Yeah. So this is a very big deal. It's a very, very big deal to finish the thinking, because if you don't, then you basically got a waste of all of that thinking. And usually when you go through this thing, and especially thinking about complex things now, which take a bit of thinking and thinking it through, right? Typically when you come back to it later, you kind of have to start all over again, because you have to hold all of it. It's like you have to load your RAM on the computer, right? And if you don't finish it, you've got no result. So all of that time you spent figuring your thing out, right? When you switch the computer off and go to sleep, up everything that was held in RAM, it goes away, right? So you have to start all over again when you're working things out again. It's a massive waste of time. And when we put all this together and we understand that, hey, when it comes to advice or learning, it's not going to mean anything really in the longer term unless you make it your own. It'll never be innate. It'll never be a part of you. It'll always be somebody else's stuff. That's why all these gurus that people follow and all this, it doesn't get them anywhere, because they end up living the guru or the teacher or the internet sensation or whatever, the influencer. They live their lives. You got to live your own life, right? That's why everything I do is always sharing. Yes. And, people say, "Oh, you teach this," and they want to call me a teacher. Nope, nope, nope. I resist this all the time. I very much resist it. I share much, which of course is valuable. All the people who've done any of my programs will tell you. But if you really, and I have them recorded, and sometimes some of the participants said, "Yes, I can release it," right? And there are some that are made public. If you pay attention, you can see the process of them making it their own, right? Now we're talking about appropriateness for yourself. When you make it your own, you own it. And when you own it, it's yours. Doesn't matter if it hasn't changed one iota. You've processed it internally. You've thought about it. You said, yes, this perspective, that perspective. You've put it into your system. You've integrated it. Right? No? It's a very powerful system. Something really, really potent to be aware of. So I just want to put this in context here, that Biella is applying capital H hearing. And remember her mandate? Her mandate is to show the delegates from the other worlds who are looking to join the agglomeration. She's showing them what it is to be a new noble, right? This is her mandate. By whoever was on admin duty at the time. They don't have any leaders. They just got somebody who's on admin. Any new noble, you get picked at random. Computer assigns you. Okay, you're on admin duty. If the thing comes up and oh well, these delegates are coming, you need to assign somebody to escort them. Okay, well, you pick somebody. Whoever was on admin duty at the time, they picked Biella for whatever reason, right? Now, obviously, typically there'll be some anomaly or attunement reason. Yeah, that's just generally how things work. Yeah. Anyway, so she's not only showing them, but also She was thinking about the inordinate made manifest. This was very early in the morning that this started, right? And she was up very early and she was thinking about this, and this was her focus. And then these things came, and she's been having this theme in her life of the inordinate made manifest, right? Which is the earlier part of the book. Now it's what she's contemplating. And here comes this conversation, and again we have the inordinate made manifest. So anomalies, it starts off anomalously, and then anomalies are a thread throughout this, right? And it's also picking up on an earlier conversation, earlier interaction, or connecting with a capital H hearing again with Haila, who also mentions and connects and understands somewhat that anomalies are needed to be paid attention to, but she's not seeing the whole picture and she doesn't quite know, doesn't have the fullness of it. So we get this fullness being shared in about anomalies and attunement here. And it's just, I mean, it's very, very powerful. And Biella lays out, and via the group and everything, multiple times she shares about anomalies and attunement in such a way that this chapter, you can use it to build a life philosophy from. That is, there's so much here, right? Now she never gives advice. She's telling them how the new nobility go about it, how so. But still, there's much here. If you sit and think about it, you'll find there are tons of self-evident sensibilities, and this is another difference. And this is part of capital H hearing, and of course, way of impeccability and nobleness, the whole, all of it, right? Nobelia-Living, the whole way they do things. They focus on self-evident sensibilities, not stuff that I have to believe you because you say so. It's true and it's good advice. No. The new nobility will never do that. Or they will say, look, I have no basis for this except my, and they'll really, really qualify it. But in general, they share self-evident sensibilities, which means that if you think about it, it will prove itself, right? Self-evident sensibility. Yeah. So there's many such things in life, but we don't tend to think of it that way. So it's kind of a new deal. All right, brilliant. Let's read some here. Boynal returned to his earlier thread. I have been waiting, and I'm not sure if I'm closing doors that should not be closed. I don't want to go back to the job I hate, and life has brought me to a point now that I have a few things, and the fear is that I keep going back and doing the same again. But it doesn't last long before I can't handle it. Something is urging me to move. Now, you would think this is his opening statement. He said the same thing. Boynal has said the same thing now, I don't know how many, three, four times at least, up until this point, right? He keeps repeating the same point. Dude, I mean, if you're afraid of going back and doing the same thing, right, and you can't handle it, then change, change. And he keeps saying change. But what is he waiting for? He wants somebody to say, change, give him advice. Yes, it's very obvious. But if you pay attention, you'll see uh, um, Biella's discipline. It takes a lot of discipline to not give people that advice that they crave. Why does he crave this? Because he wants to avoid the responsibility of making a decision. No, no, no. If I do, or if Biella were to give him advice, to tell him the obvious, that's so obvious, the yeah, right? Then basically takes that responsibility off his shoulders. He's going to be in the same mess again, because that's why he's looping in a mess, because he doesn't want to take responsibility, doesn't want to make decisions, among others, or at least it's highly likely that's the reason, right? There are other reasons that people can overestimate their abilities and stuff like that, right? And they're not accurate. So they're not impeccable, don't have self-honesty. And I don't mean, when I say somebody doesn't have self-honesty, it doesn't mean they're dishonest. I know tons of phenomenally honest people, right? I trust them with my life, but self-honest, no. Right? It's two different things, right? We are sometimes not self-honest simply because we don't want to make that effort, because we don't want to open that door, that Pandora's box, and see what's in there, right? So we avoid doing it, right? That doesn't make us dishonest. It just makes us avoiding being self-honest, right? So a nice fine point of discernment, and we're being discriminating in our discernment here, right? I love this word discriminating, right? Because you say, oh, we need to practice and make an effort to be discriminating. And people go, oh, what do you mean we need to be discriminating? If you actually are discriminating in your understanding of language, you'll know that to be discriminating means to be able to finally distinguish between nuance, between very small differences, right? And so to be discriminating is a good quality. But when we get to like racial or sexual or whatever discrimination, right? Gender, now we are discriminating based on a false criteria. And there's the problem, right? So it's just using a false criteria in order to make distinctions, right? And to make differences, which is what discriminating is. You're saying, yes, difference between this and that. When you base it on race or gender, well, it's a false criteria, right? And then it's nonsense, right? And of course, too, most like racial discrimination, the basis for it is just superiority, right? That's it. I feel crap about myself and I want to feel better. So I find some group that's less than me. And because I can't say I'm better personally, because I know I'm crap, right? So I have to associate myself with a group and borrow their moreness and compare it to other group and say, well, you less. Well, now I'm better. Now suddenly I'm superior. No, you're not. You're still the same piece of rubbish that you were before because you absolutely made no effort and you indulge in your nonsense, right? And you indulge in nastiness and all of this other horrible stuff that you do. So no, doesn't help, right? But this is the fallacy of it. Inappropriateness, massive, massive inappropriateness. I just want to make a point about being discerning and being discriminating. These are very positive qualities, right? So we're going to be paying attention to this fine discernment and fine discrimination. And when we start to pay attention here, right? So now Boynal is repeating, and we have to ask ourselves, why is he repeating? But also, when you apply capital H hearing, and I've done this many times when I've been, well, not just in Way-of-Impeccability, but when I've been with somebody who's come to me in a client capacity, like in a therapeutic capacity, right? They got some problem and they want to sort it, right? And also just with my friends, right? When you listen, when you truly listen. Now, most people, including therapists, counselors, etc., sadly, they don't listen to what you're saying in their brains. They listen to what they are going to be saying in response. They're listening to what they're going to say inside themselves. And they're more listening to themselves than to you. Yes, there's a part of them that hears what you're saying, but they're listening to their response to what you say. This limits so much of what you do. When you truly listen, you just let things come. Yes, you respond, yes, but you respond more to create the space for more to come, right? Which is what Biella is doing here. And when you really apply capital H hearing, you are making space for people to feel heard, not to be heard. Yes, that's part of it, because you have to be heard in order to feel heard. But you can be heard but not feel heard. Right? You put somebody on a lie detector test. So, yeah, they heard me, but I don't feel heard. Why don't they feel heard? Because they didn't have that opportunity to re-express and re-express and re-express again. And this is what's happening here with Boynal, right? He gets to say it again and again and again. And sometimes this is what we need when we have a conundrum, we have a problem, we have a dilemma, right? We have to say it many, many times. But of course, most of us don't do that, especially with our friends, because man, I'm saying the same thing. I know I said it before, and you kind of feel like you're impinging on your friend. You're taking up their time and so on, right? Now, when you're in a therapy thing, if the therapist or counselor or whatever makes space for it, well, I'm paying, so hey, I can talk, right? Now, in this case, Boynal probably would not have repeated this so many times if Biella didn't encourage it in her commentary on it, right? Which every time she does this, she makes space for him to come at it again, right? It's very skillful what Biella's doing here. Very, very, very skillful, right? There's a lot that goes behind it. It may look like she's just responding. No, there's so much going on inside her that she's acting on and being very deliberate, being very careful, acting with discernment and discrimination and with care and with nobility and with moreness and looking at the bigger picture. She's not just listening to what Boynal is saying. She's also listening to what he's not saying. She's listening to what's implied by what he said, right? She's listening to the context in which it's being said. She's listening for the bigger picture. She's listening for the gaps, the holes, right? The contradictions, the conundrums. Now, she's dealing with type here, so it's a little bit more difficult. But if you listen to when somebody's speaking live, you listen to how they say things, so they repeat it. You listen for stress words, right? For words that have a problem to them, or joy, or whatever. You're listening for emotional connectivity. In other words, most people think somebody was made a post, and I responded to it. They said, "Oh, you must keep everything secret." I said, "No, I have no secrets." Now, then they came and said, "Well, I was talking about things like bank accounts." Yeah, well, come on, when you say keep everything secret in a self-improvement group, what's this got to do with your bank accounts? Like, come on, this is an inappropriate post. I didn't say that, but all right. I mean, it's like, duh, I mean, that's like, well, this is not relevant here. But when it comes to personal stuff, don't have any secrets, because you can't really keep any secrets anyway. Yes, you may be able to keep your password secret or your bank account secret, but this is not stuff that's connected to your emotionality. When it comes to your emotionality and your intent and stuff like that, mm, when I listen to people, I hear all of their secrets, personal secrets. They don't know it, but I hear all of it, because they give it all away. I mean, it's all there in your language, in implications, in inference, in how you emphasize stuff, how you stress stuff, etc., etc., etc. I can go on for a long, long time, and I've got this huge program called Capital H Hearing, in which I share all of the techniques and methodologies for doing exactly that, for truly hearing somebody. Right now, of course, when you hear their issue, well, in order to truly hear your issue, I've got to hear you as a person also. I've got to know where you're coming from, your motivations, your intents, etc. Right? Your fears, and things that you've yet to learn and that you refuse to learn, your awful truths, etc. Right? I mean, especially if I'm going to be or acting in some kind of therapeutic capacity, in order to truly be of assistance, I have to know that stuff, right? But most people, they don't even really know it themselves. They do, but they don't want to, right? So that's why they come to you. They want you to open the box for them. But yeah, my point is that people give it all away. There's no real secret when it comes to personal secrets of a true personal nature. I'm not talking about technical stuff like your bank account and that. When it comes to your being, there are no secrets. In the bigger picture, no, sorry, there are no secrets. Yeah. Anyway, so he says something is urging me to move, right? But he isn't saying, well, he's stuck. He knows he has to move, but he doesn't want to, right? Well, he's got his son there. He's not with his wife anymore, and this other stuff comes into it, complications. So now let's look at Biella's response to him restating this problem once again, that he's now already said in 3 or 4 different times in different ways. And by the way, said Biella, I can't even begin to tell you the confluence of events on my side, which conspired to make our conversation connected to more. It's amazing. Way, way, way beyond coincidence. And Biella add, emphasizing the concurrence. Now look at this here, right? Now, I mean, this is very obviously everything Biella says always, is true. But there's also more, and there's many ways to tell the truth. Be aware of this, right? It doesn't mean you're lying or being any. No, you just could say the truth in different ways. The capital D diplomacy. You don't have to say it harshly or rudely, right? And also, so she's sharing this, which is just interesting in and of itself. But how is it connected and related to Boynal? Like, you might say, yeah, but what is that to Boynal? How is this connected to his issue? Think of the mourners here, right? That she's letting Boynal know, right? That 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 his conversation is connected to more for Biella, right? And later she says it in a different way. She's saying, "Hey, Boynal, your story has become part of my story, and this is wonderful." So now she's made opening, she's made space for Boynal to keep sharing more about what's going on with him. Now, he may not know yet what that more is, because he needs to explore it. But that, so it's like, wow, what I'm saying is helping her. She's providing motivation for him to keep sharing.
Now he's a bit stuck, right? So all he does is share the same stuff again because he's looping in a circle. And that was his original comment and question. And he said, does the loop get tighter and smaller and quicker? Right. And then she shares the spirals fable with him. Right. So this is exactly what's happening. But her comment here is opening a door for Boynal to keep sharing, even if it's the same thing, right? Said differently, it doesn't matter. Because now he's helping Biella. He's not just doing it for his own personal gain. What a gift. What a considerate, caring gift of this nobility, right? Where she does this knowing that it's opening the door for him to basically just say the same thing again, right? Because he's stuck. But she knows that even in going over it, sometimes we say the same thing but slightly differently every time. It's those little windows that we're looking through, and it all falls into place at some point. Or you're just getting it out of your system and you hearing yourself. When you actually hear yourself say the same thing out loud, right? It's very different to when you're saying the same thing in your head. In our head, we can say it forever. I mean, like people say the same things in their head for their whole lives. But when you say it out loud, you're like, oh, I'm really repeating myself. I'm really saying the same thing. You become aware because our brains don't kind of keep that kind of a track. It's sort of kind of new every time. Yes, you know you're repeating, but you still repeat, right? But it's very hard to do out loud or when you write it down. It's very difficult. And he's typing here, right? So like a record of it as this conversation is taking place via text messaging. Right. So this is just part of the way the new nobility are. And this kind of deep consideration, right? That she's not just randomly sharing something. There's some moreness to it, right? A layeredness, almost always. Everything she does, layeredness. Most of the new nobility, but especially so for Biella. She was keen for Boynal to make that connection to the magic of connecting to the universe via anomalies. Here's another reason, right? So she's not only saying to him that, hey, you know what, your story is helping my story. She's also saying that my story is about anomalies and this is something that he needs to be aware of. It's new to him, it's foreign, it's completely outside of his thinking, right? So he knows the word, but as you'll see when he says there, he it takes him a long time before he acknowledges that he has no idea what Biella means by anomalies, right? Even though he sort of nods along and agrees, no clue, right? No clue. And because he's been taking a counseling course. So in his mind, he kind of knows what's going on. So he's very reluctant to admit he's completely ignorant about something. It's one thing to discuss a problem and kind of figure it out to somebody who's also, that's one thing. But to admit, I don't have a clue what you're saying. Now, in hierarchy, you change the level of hierarchies. He's seeing himself as, he's sharing with a fellow, somebody who's sort of coming from the same perspective as he is. There's a world of difference, obviously, between him and Biella, but he can't acknowledge it, right? And this is what's keeping him stuck because his opinion of his own skills and abilities relative to himself is way overemphasized, right? So this happens very often, and this is why self-honesty is so important. If we don't have an accurate awareness of ourselves, then we can't really gauge, and we tend to overestimate in this cause or underestimate and cause a lot of problems. Now, self-honesty is not about comparing. You'll never hear Biella or any new noble or even any aspirant compare themselves to others. No, it's just idiotic. This is absolutely idiotic. It's like comparing colors and saying, "Oh, which is the best color?" Come on, man. You need all the colors. They're all magical. They're all wonderful. This hierarchy, this looking for the best always. The moment you find the best, what do you do by implication? Favorites. People love favorites. I really make an effort not to have favorites. Why? Because the moment I make a favorite, I devalue everything else by comparison. When you say this is the best, well, everything relative to else is like, oh, not so good. Yeah. Even though the best may be so trivial that it really makes no difference. Doesn't matter. Psychologically, it's now set apart. Yeah. And you devalue everything else. No, that's terrible to me. You've elevated one thing and there's an infinity that's been devalued. Think about this, what this does to your life in general, right? You got a favorite color, well, all the other colors are less fun. Why do you want to do that to yourself? No, no, not cool, right? So this comparativeness and the comparative mindset, terrible thing, terrible thing. We need to really get out of it. But we taught it, we hammered it's hammered into us from day go, right? Winning and all of this. That's why in group, one of the group rules is no posts about winning. It's a horrible mindset. If I win, then I make everybody else a loser. I used to when I was a young man, because I thought about stuff, right? Uh, it was easy to win at things simply because I made the effort to think about things through to the end and figure out a bit of strategy to things, which most people never bothered to do. So I always won at all the games we played. Eventually, nobody wanted to play with me, at least in some games, right? And I realized too that winning. I was a national champion at age 13. But it was a small fish in a tiny pond. And I realized it's meaningless, right? Your winning is only relative. It didn't make me necessarily absolutely good. Yes, on an objective level, I did have considerable skill, but it was in sailing, and there are many different classes of sailing. Different types of little dinghies. Dinghies we're sailing on, like small boat sailing, not like ocean going yachts, right? So, but everybody's in their own little group. It's not one group where you have like you all sail the same boat and you compare your actual skills, right? So you of all the sailors in each class, there's only so many, so few, right? And so it's a limited pond. It doesn't mean much, right? Anyway, and in this particular instance, it was so. Doesn't make it not an accomplishment, but in the when you expand the context, it's like no big deal at all, right? So I really became aware of this, the square circle logic of winning, right? It just makes you feel good, but there's a big price that you pay for it. And it's a horrible mindset, really, to always be going for this, right? And go for excellence rather. That's it. It's a whole different thing now. Now I'm going for, am I accomplished in the thing itself? Do I have competence in it? Can I do it? Yes. Rather than is it relative to others? Yes. Yeah. I mean, I'm a decent table tennis player. If I go to, most like even now, older, right? I mean, the last time I played table tennis, I was playing with a bunch of younger guys, right? And I was holding my own really well. There's only one guy who, he just beat me just by a little bit. But it wasn't about winning. It was about competence. I couldn't care if I win. I want to be competent. However, I've played against people that are truly skilled, and it's no comparison. It's no comparison. I'm like inept completely compared to them, right? And yet in the general, like, when average places where you go and people are playing table tennis, I'm more than competent. Yeah. So again, we have to be aware of this, right? So this is why I enjoyed playing golf, because golf with a handicap system, you can actually compare to everybody in the world. You have an objective measure of competence, right? It's not subjective, because most things, like I say, in table tennis, you may think, like in my case, if I'd never played against truly skilled players, I would have thought, well, I'm one of the better players that there are, right? Because it's very hard when you're gauging, like you're watching professional table tennis players. Yeah, well, you can maybe get an idea, but unless you actually play against them, you have no idea how big that gap is, right? And I have played against truly skilled players. I don't know. This was a long time ago. I don't know. They may have been able to go professional. I don't know. Maybe professional even more than that. I don't know. Anyway, my point is that, we don't want to get caught up in this trap of comparisons. Prefer competence, right? And as a golfer, I could establish that, yes, I had real competence in this, right? And that makes me happy. Now, I'm happy with my level of my table tennis skills, which is way less objectively, I know, than golf is. But I'm still very happy with it, because that's as much as my body and time and energy and effort has taken me. Maybe I could be better. I didn't put much into it like I did with golf. I put a lot into that, right? But again, I'm happy either way. It's all effort versus reward. And this is where excellence is go. Yes, I might not even be like in the table tennis. Well, I'm relatively competent. I'm not incompetent. I can play, right? But it's a level of excellence that satisfies me, right? And so we have to understand this. Very powerful. All right. Anyway, I don't know. I'm getting a bit off track here. Down rabbit holes, but this is all connected, right? So this Biella's care and consideration here, right? She wants to also make the space, and she'll do it in many ways to break Boynal out of this comparative mindset a little bit. You're going to see it come in later on a little bit. She was keen for Boynal to make that connection to the magic of connecting to the universe via anomalies. She did not want to force the attention, and Boynal had ignored all the earlier comments concerning this connection and the anomalies. He just ignored them, right? Because he didn't know what it was, so of course you just ignore it, you don't pay attention to it. But she's applying capital H hearing. So she notices when he doesn't respond to what is there to be responded to, right? Perhaps an uncomfortable topic or too far outside his comfort zone. There we go. It's mentioned here. Biella would add references as appropriate and hope the connection was made. Anomalies, the missing piece of the puzzle for Boynal. So this again, yeah, right? She's saying your story is part of my story, right? And it's way, way, way beyond coincidence, right? Confluence of events, right? Which conspired. Her whole language here is she's talking about anomalies, but in a more comfortable, more easy to connect to way. She's being very, very, very capital C considerate. This is capital D diplomacy in action right there, right? I have another program on capital D diplomacy. It's a very powerful thing. There's a lot of skill. I mean, it's an art, capital D diplomacy. It's beyond a skill, but this is her art, and she's very skilled in this, right? She's applying it right there. I mean, just the kindness of it. Just think of it. Just think of the kindness involved. Yeah. She's really, really taking care to say it. Now, will the delegates see this? Maybe, right? She can't explain everything because it will take too long, right? She can hope, right? She added, yes, closing doors is critical to the process. Your house always has to be in order, nothing holding you back. That's part of the impeccability. To snip all the strings neatly, tie off all outstanding energies thoroughly. Right? Now watch how Boynal responds. He doesn't hear that last sentence. Yeah. He just hears keeping your house in order. He just takes it very in a literal way. Yes, you do literally want to do that, but it's about the energy. For a spirit warrior, which is the self-conception that's used as a starting default in Way of Impeccability. You're encouraged to make your own self-conceptions, but that's just the common one that's shared as a starting default. Starting, not doesn't hold you to it. But as a spirit warrior, right? You're looking to be impeccable. Why impeccability? Because you're in a battle against habits and ignorance and unawareness and things like this, right? And it is a battle because those things, they make an effort to claim and hold of you. Superiority, same thing. Culture, same thing, right? Other people, same thing. So there is a battleness, but it's an energetic battle, right? It's a battle of awareness. And of course, the best way to fight, to win a fight is not to fight, of course, right? So this is when you're an ultimate warrior, you understand that, right? The art of fighting without fighting. But still, it's a good mindset because a warrior has to be impeccable because their life is on the line, right? So the need for impeccability gets enhanced. As if you're not impeccable, you're going to be a dead warrior pretty quick, right? So impeccability is very crucial to a warrior because it's life and death. In our everyday lives, well, so what, man? It's not the end of the world. I'm not going to die. Well, yeah, right. But there are other benefits to it, right? So especially like this, if he's going to leave wherever he is and go to another country, if he doesn't get his house in order energetically, he's still going to have ties and connections, and he won't be able to make that move fully, right? And you can see this with people when they move, even if it's not to another country, right? The best example is relationships, right? Watch when people they break up with somebody and then they're in a new relationship, but they did not get their house in order with the old relationship, right? They didn't transition for one thing. Don't break up. Well, that's another thing. I got another program on transitioning, right? I never broke up ever in my life. I just transitioned. It was the most magical thing, right? A long story about this, right? So we don't have to have this mindset of it being a stressful thing. No, why?
You have a relationship and it runs its course, and then you transition into the next, right? But I put my house in order, so I didn't have any ties, any strings tying me to the previous relationship. It was whatever it was, and well, that particular relationship ended. My first serious relationship, one day on the beach, and this marvelous, wonderful girl said to me, just just suddenly, no preamble, nothing. She said, "You are too much for me." Because I was able to think things through and look at the implications and connections. I I said, yes, I understand. And that was the end of the relationship, right? There's no need to say it's over, nothing like that. It was obvious. It was there, right? It's all said. It was wonderful. It was beautiful. It was the most wonderful way. And that's where I understood our relationship transitioned. Of course, we stayed friends, but we weren't in a close relationship. Right? It's marvelous. So we can see all that connecting here. So, but it's again the ties, the energetic. There was no holdover. So when I went into the next relationship, there's no connectivity pulling me back. But you see this with people all the time. And if you really pay attention to some people, especially if they go and they date kind of a lot and they have a relationship for a while and then another one, they're still connected to all their relationships. No wonder you're struggling. No wonder you're struggling, right? So this right, close all the doors if you're going to be doing something, moving, changing, right? Try off all outstanding energies thoroughly. He doesn't ask on this point, right? Boynal continued. I was speaking to someone else who was from this area. She just made friends with me, and she said herself she has to just get up and go. A pause. Right. Now this is new. He said the same thing before, that he's in a where he's living now. He's in dead end jobs. He's looping. It's not happy. It's miserable. And he's mentioned, I think now he's already mentioned that his son is there and he's worried about leaving his son, and things like that, right? But yes, the first time that he mentions that he wants to go to this other place, Karamai, he calls it, right? And he mentions that he wants to go, which is another country by assumption, right? Um, because he needs a visa, he says, right? So, but he never mentioned that he's got somebody there. Now it's finally coming out that there's somebody there, and now we see some of the complication here, right? That a bit of guilt coming in. Somebody's going to comment on it later, so I'll mention that a little bit later. A pause. Then Boynal asks. Now he's responding to Biella's comment. In order, even financially, I seem to be at a point of financial downward spiral. Not the first time, but now I feel it is, because I keep doing what my soul doesn't want for me. So here we see his conundrum, right? He relates to things in a very materialistic way, right? He says closing doors is a critical process. Biella speaking, yes, uh, well, I guess closing doors isn't necessarily literal, but if you are going to leave a house, don't leave the doors open, even if it's empty. Yeah, it's just kind of messy, and stuff comes in, the wind blows in, makes a mess. I mean, you close the doors when you leave, right? I mean, it's like duh, right? Your house always has to be in order, right? Yes, you're leaving it order. All the windows are closed, the doors are closed. The gas is turned off, stuff like that, in a very literal sense. But when you apply this more figuratively, and you apply this to yourself, and your connections energetically, she makes that point, right? To snip all the strings neatly. But he's worried. He thinks, oh, he's probably in debt, and he thinks there's no way I'm going to be getting out of this debt, right? So in order to move, if I first have to clear my debts, I'm going to be here forever, because that's the problem. He's in a downward spiral jobs wise. So he's making less money, and by implication, right? And having the same expenses. So his debts are just growing bigger, right? It's just a mess for him. So he thinks, wow, I won't be able to get out if I have to, first fix my finances, right? But also at the same time, as he says this very literally, right? He also brings in this point, because I keep doing what my soul doesn't want for me. He has the spiritual understanding, and it pops out, right? So there's a part of him that does realize that, wow, this is a spiritual issue, an energetic issue, right? But it's not connecting for him. It's not connecting, right? Because he's still stuck in that literalness too much, right? Yes,
everything that needs doing, Biella said, as if you were never coming back. So she's opening the door here because she knows what's going on, right, with his finances here. She understands this, yeah, and she gets a confirmation, but she creates an opening for him, right, as if you were never coming back, dude. If you are so stuck in your situation, sometimes you just have to say, look, this is a downward spiral, getting worse and worse. I have to make a break, and sorry, but okay, people, I owe you a bit of money, but I have to go elsewhere and start again. You know, I can't fulfill those obligations. Yes, of course, being impeccable is being responsible, but you have to be responsible in the bigger picture. All he's going to do there is going to incur further debt, and eventually it'll implode anyway, and he's going to be owing people money that he can't pay. Well, cut it now, and it's less than what it will do when it gets bigger, right? So, sometimes you just have to cauterize the wound, as it were, right? Or lance the boil. As if you were never coming back, she opens that door for him to say, look, you're going to make a clean break here. Yes, to put your house in order doesn't mean to necessarily pay all your debts. To put it in order energetically means you making that clean break. You're dumping it and say, look, this is a big mess. I cannot deal with it. I've tried and tried and tried. I can't. It's not happening. It's not working. Right? Now I have to go elsewhere. So sometimes we have to put the spiritual first. And the mundanities, they take a back seat, right, in the grand appropriateness, and say, sorry, I can't do this. Not possible. I have to look after my soul. I don't want to, not pay my debts, but it can't be helped, right? Sometimes you just have to make these tough choices in life. Yeah? Very, very necessary, very necessary. And I don't mean it casually here. I don't mean to say like, well, you get in trouble, you just bail and go. No, this is a very different thing here, because he's spiritually, and his soul is not happy, right? And so he's trying to do what's wrong for him to do. So it's inappropriate application of goodness. He's not in debt because he's just being irresponsible and lazy. No, or indulgent. No, different reason, right? So we have to really look carefully at this situation. That's why Biella doesn't say it so directly, because she can't encourage something which can be mistaken for condoning indulgence, right? Very delicate here for Biella. As if you were never coming back, as if possibly going to a place that has no connection. She means like internet connection. It probably won't be so, but it's the preparedness. It's associated with your intent. If you still have ties, outstanding open ends, how serious is your intent to truly move on to a new phase of your life? See? See how really putting this into really, Biella was going somewhere with the comments. This is making a very big points here, right? Very big point, right? There's another path to all of this. It is connected. Another way of perceiving it all. And that's the intimate connection with your wants. Now she's opening a whole other door here, because she's already seen that this, when he mentioned about the woman in his life, right? Oh, there's a woman that's there in this new country. He'll say a bit more on it, right? But Biala already sees that he's got a bit of a conundrum and a quandary there, right? Yes, he wants to get out of the dead end that he's in. But and he said before a few times now, he said that this has been going on for a while, for a while, that he's in the same looping problem, right? So why hasn't he moved before? Yeah. So obviously it's not enough to push him. This time is different, because there's somebody there that likes him, that he's made this deep connection with. But he feels guilty for doing for wanting to now leave finally, for a very, very personal, selfish motive. Right? So Biala's aware of this. Yeah. And so she presents an option, and that gives him something to be able to deal with this psychological conundrum and quandary, right? One that is not understanding in its fullness. There's another path to all of this. It is connected. Another way of perceiving it all. And that's the intimate connection to your wants. Capital W wants, right? Now, she is typing, so he can see it's a capital W want. He may not see it. He may just see it as a quirk of Biala's typing, right? A fine, fine perspective. So bear with me here. First, there is the learning to want nothing. Now, typically, Biella would actually have capitalized learning because it's a capital L learning that's needed, but she keeps it normal because she doesn't want to confuse matters, right? First, there is learning to want nothing. Then, whatever we get is a great gift, right? And when we understand this, this is very powerful. This is very, very powerful to really understand that wanting nothing is not the same as not liking anything, right? Unhooking from wants, freedom from wants in that sense, lets us enjoy pretty much everything. It's incredible. I mean, this I can attest to from a personal basis, yes, and also some others that have developed the skill. When we learn to want nothing, we pretty much learn to enjoy everything, yeah, or pretty close to everything. Yeah, it's really powerful. It's really, really powerful. But there's more to this, right? She's going somewhere. I understand, Boynal said. I was thinking about making myself bankrupt, but this, I don't know. Now, when he says I understand, he's talking about the clean break even financially, right? Because this is a text conversation and the text doesn't always flow. You respond and then somebody types, right? And so what they were typing comes in between what you're responding to. So when he says, hey, I understand, he's understanding now about the financial stuff, right? I was thinking about making myself bankrupt, but this I don't know. And closing all this behind me, or just canceling everything and going with what I have and letting what happens happen. He left the thought incomplete. He's stuck because he wants to go, but he doesn't really have enough money to go. Right? And I suppose, I lived my life pretty much without credit cards. So, maybe he'll he can get put the plane ticket on the credit card, and then well they'll go bankrupt anyway. And he's got a bit of a problem with this, ethically, I guess, right? I'm assuming this is the issue here, right? Or at least Bialla's assuming, right? So it's difficult for him, right? Because he doesn't have much, right? And going with what I have, and he's very reluctant to step out into this new country with nothing. Well, from experience, you just got to do it. If it's the right thing for your soul and your spirit, you got to take that step into the dark. And the second step, the first step is pretty much always in the dark. And don't worry, the second step will turn the light on. But he's not aware of this. He doesn't have trust in the greater spirituality in the universe, right? And when things are right, how do you consistently do what's wrong? Okay. So this is a very, very powerful point here. Let me just refresh to see if there are any comments that I may have missed here. Sometimes the comments automatically come, and yeah, where I'm refreshing now. And you see, every time I have to then now click on the video, I have to turn off the sound and then see. Yeah, see, there's some comments. And Ramsey says, "Hi Norma, I was listening in kitchen," and so she couldn't respond right away, right? I'm typing. I love it. I love it. Wonderful. All right, brilliant. So we end this point here now where he's not willing to take a risk. But yeah, let me make a bigger point. And this is why when the concept of context, capital C context, first came into my awareness, it was a surreal, spiritual, anomalous, profound experience. I had a visual of it, right? Now, the visual itself doesn't mean anything. It was just there in addition to the context because it's so profound. It's such a profound, profound, profound awareness to truly understand context in the bigger picture, right? All right, now look at this. He's got a problem. He's in a situation which sucks. It doesn't work. It's not just one time. This has gone looped many times. The same thing over and over and over again, right? It's not going. It's getting worse actually. Not even just the same. It's getting worse, right? It says the spiral is tightening. The loop is getting quicker. Right? He basically gets into a job and he can't stand it. It sucks. It's horrible. He can't do it, and then he gets out. And obviously, every time you're changing jobs like that, you never get. You've done this many times. You get worse. Jobs that pay less and less, and he's going in a downward spiral, right? So, but here's the problem. So he's aware that he's in a situation that's not working, that's not right, right? And this has been proven multiple times. So this is not just him saying, well, okay, I tried this. He's not being indulgent or kind of crappy about it, right? This is very clear that this is not right, not working, it's not where he's meant to be. And so I have to move. But he doesn't have the money, the finances, it's unknown. He just want to go with nothing, right? So now, yes, the conundrum, at least for me, yes, and I've been in that exact same situation, right? I didn't spiral. I went on a spiritual quest, but I knew that where I wasn't right, right? So if you know where you are is not right, you've got a definite, you've got a confirmation, you've got something there's no doubt that this is so. Where you want to go to, the newness that you're going to, you have no idea what's there, right? Now you can't say, well, I can't go because I don't know what's going to be there. Maybe I don't have enough money. You know where you at is wrong, right? If the moreness is there potentially, you've got a maybe better than a definite bad. How is this even a choice? How is maybe better not a better choice than definitely bad? Now you would think, well, when I say it that way, it's like duh, but yet people literally die because they are so afraid of the unknown and uncertainty. Yes, and they're so afraid of making decisions which may be wrong. People die in fires. The fire starts and they smell the fire, and well, likely they weren't paying attention. Oh, it's nothing, it's just, smell, whatever. And then suddenly they realize, oh my God, the house is on fire, right? And it's on fire all around them. And what so often happens? They start to panic and they run around in little circles, not knowing which direction to go. Yes? Right? If you stay where you are, you're going to get burnt, but you're not on fire yet. However, the doors got flames around it, the windows are, you got to either jump out of the window through the glass, maybe fall somewhat. It's not a fun decision, right? Right? It's not nice, but it's still better than where you are at. But they can't make this decision because there's some unpleasantness involved. Like in the case of Boynal, well, there's stress and bother and hassle going with no money to a new place, right? But yet it's less worse than what is in. So what happens to people can't make that decision, and they don't know which way is the best way to go either, right? And they end up, either getting severely burnt and somebody comes and rescues them, which is why we know about this, right? And if they weren't rescued, they would have died. And also, other people die in that little spot where they could have gotten out, but they didn't, right? So panic can cause your death, but it's not panic that's the issue. It's insecurity. It's lack of self-trust and not wanting to make a decision and fear of the unknown. All of those are the reasons those people die in the fires, right? So understand the psychology, and it's very powerful, very, very powerful. And we see this same psychology with Boynal, right? He's repeating the same thing. He's running around in that little circle, yes, not knowing what to do, which way to go, because he doesn't want to commit to a decision. Why? Because the decision's got some unknown in it. Yeah. And this is one of the great profoundnesses of this whole culture and psychology and philosophy of the new nobility, the moreness, the moreness philosophy, right? Because moreness is simply taking the unknown and renaming it and saying, instead of having the unknown associated with fear and trouble and horrible stuff, right? This is, most people, unknown is the most frightening thing there is. Like if I said to you, hey, I've got the spaceship, let's go out and venture out into the unknown. You say, oh, hell no, sorry, leave me out of it. I don't want to go out into the unknown. It's like, come on, man, that doesn't make any sense. Who wants to do that? But if I said to you, hey, I've got this spaceship and, you want to come with, I'm going out into the moreness. Oh, moreness. Yeah, sign me up. I want moreness. I'm willing to see. Same thing, different mindset, different perspective. He doesn't see going to the new place as moreness. He sees it as unknown. Unknown equals scary. Moreness equals, well, moreness. Exciting. It may be that, the moreness comes in different ways, not necessarily financial moreness, spiritual moreness, right, etc. But still moreness, right? But when you're positive, you enjoy the experience, right? So moreness puts you on an adventure, right? unknown puts you into just stress and bother. And right? In other words, if somebody's venturing into the unknown, they're typically going to be fearful and complaining and stressed and bothered. Somebody who's on a moreness, even if things aren't, ideal or luxury, like you're having hard times. Hey, I'm on an adventure. What the hell do you care? If things aren't, you got to sleep on the ground or whatever. Yeah, I'm on an adventure, right? So attitude makes all the difference. Mindset, attitude. That's why the moreness philosophy is so profound. It changes everything. And when we realize there is an actual bigger spiritual moreness out there, which the more you start paying attention to moreness, the more you see it, the more you notice it's not just a psychological trick, a mindset, a perspective shift. No, there's a very real reality to it that's incredibly potent and powerful. It becomes a self-proving a conception and proof. It's fantastic. Changes everything. Changes absolutely everything. It's a huge deal, right? So Boynal's still stuck in this literal thinking a little bit, right? In this very limited context stuff. He's still concerned with the money. It's like, dude, your soul is on the line. He says it, right? It's the incredible thing. When you apply capital H hearing, you'll hear people say things to themselves, right? Like he says, his soul is on the line here. But even though he comes out of his mouth, he's not really hearing himself say it. If he did, it's like, dude, you're worrying about money when your soul is on the line. Come on. Seriously? Soul, money, soul, money, soul, money, no comparison, right? You got to choose soul every time. Yeah. Um, I understand, he says about the money, right? Or just canceling everything and going with what I have and letting what happens happen. Again, he says it, but well, or just why? What's stopping you from doing this? What he's saying, he seems to be, or just canceling everything and going with what I have and letting what happens happen. I mean, that's just what he needs to do. He's got to cancel everything in terms of his finances, like going bankrupt, and going with what he have, whatever little he has, and letting what happens happens. He's completely encapsulated what needs to happen. He's saying it, but you might at that point say, well, why don't you? Right? But this is capital H hearing, right? If you just say it, then I don't know, and you say, yeah, maybe I'm just afraid or whatever. It might make some kind of rationalization, but the real reason's not there yet, right? And there are other reasons that are coming up here, and we'll see them coming up. It's already one has been mentioned with this woman, right? And Biella brought in once. He doesn't want to go and feel guilty that he's going for a personal reason. So if he does what he knows he needs to do, but he thinks he's doing it for that reason, he's going to have guilt with him. So he's not really resolving the problem. He's going to go from one mess into another, right? So even though he's saying it's like a duh, yeah, capital H hearing says there's more, right? So now she keeps going to create space for that more to come. Biella filled out the perspective. Then we can enjoy whatever we can. She's now continuing her point about leaving your house in order. And when you now, she said, tie off things energetically. Why is this important? Then we can enjoy whatever we can in the new situation, right? Simply enjoy and immerse in whatever is appropriate. Again, she's just sharing here. And this is just, good sensibility for any time, right? The alignment with appropriateness as our guiding force is key. Yeah. Huh. Just sums it all up nicely, right? Like, dude, you worried about this. Align with appropriateness. Is it appropriateness? Is it appropriate to leave the mess you in and save your soul? Your soul is completely being negated here and on a downward spiral and starting to fall apart. Yeah. So where's the appropriate choice here, right? So the alignment with appropriateness as our guiding force is key. But she also says, right, now we're going to come a bit more here. But the problem is the goal or motivation appropriateness is connected to. This is Biella's incredible skill. This is capital diplomacy here, right? She's already brought once into it because of his mention of the woman, right? The person that is interested, which is that selfish motivation, right? So now she's saying, yes, it's appropriate, but why is it appropriate? Yeah, he's afraid of this thing with going just for the reason of the woman, right? You're going because your soul is dying. The woman is a gift from the universe to pull you across, but he doesn't see it, right? It's appropriate, right? And it's anomalous that she's from the same area and she's in the same country. He doesn't see all of this, right? The problem is the goal or motivation appropriateness is connected to. Biella was surprised at how she was expressing herself. It seemed as if the order of her words were coming out reversed. Now, it's very subtle here. I mean, she's noticing it, right? But yeah, the problem is the goal or motivation appropriateness is connected to, right? Uh, to say it in a more kind of easier way, you would say we have to pay attention because there's a problem that what our goal is connected to needs to be appropriate, right? Something like that, right? Let's say it a little better. But anyway, it comes out nicely here. It seemed as if the order of her words were coming out reversed. It enables this point to be made. She would wait, see where it led, right? So this is the things are coming so that this can be shared here, right? Because that's how things work. In a capital H hearing, you have to wait and see where it leads, right? And just when you're living your life, when you're living with anomalies too, you don't always know. You have no clue sometimes. Things happen a little bit oddly. You don't know. You just have to wait and see where it leads, right? She trusted it could be significant. Could be. She doesn't know yet. If not, she would repeat and restate later. Her saying it in this backwards, kind of semi-backward way now. It's not wildly different, but a little bit. She would repeat and restate later. It just makes the point of the methodology involved here. Very, very cool. Boynal seemed to connect to Biella expressions. Huh, huh. I don't remember if this was right. To Biella expressions is slightly different to Biella's expressions. She has many of the things she says, you could take it as a Biella expression, right? As a Bielanism, right? It's not, like you have people who have, like Yogi Berra, right? Used to say things. I don't know if you, who knows, but people have a particular way of saying things. So it becomes like their expression, like a Ramsey or a Norma expression, right? That's really interesting. Um, but he's not actually connecting to her Biella expression. So I'm going to edit that there, and say Biella's expressions, because Biella is saying things which are very Biella, but he's not connecting to those. He's connecting to more these odd expressions in this different way. Well, they're not odd, but slightly different, right? So not a big difference, but a little bit. I think I have been seeking to want. When people really, if you just make the effort to hear yourself, you're going to be surprised at how much sensibility and moreness there is. Because the who that actually says stuff that comes out of your mouth is not the self that's wrapped up in your bubble. There's more to us than that bubble self, right? So look at this, what he says here. It's very profound. I think I have been seeking to want. That's why capital R readings, when we go and we look at and we notice these things which just seem to be, if you're just reading it regularly, you just say, oh, it's just a peculiar way of saying things. This is absolutely the core of the issue. Most people are seeking to want. They're not motivated, in other words, right? So if you find a want, you get motivated. Yeah. And he's been seeking a want, but the want has come via a woman to pull him across to the other place, right? So he didn't have the wants. And this is what keeps me stuck. He didn't have any motivation, right? Yet I know I understand nothing. Again, he misses so much of what Biella says. Yeah, he actually says it, but does it make a difference to his behavior? No. It's his deeper self, his mourner self, talking to his bubble self, his little self, his regular world self. And listen to yourself, Boynal. Act on it. Don't just say the words. Act on it. Right? If you acted on not understanding nothing, you'd be asking Biella, what do you mean? Can you explain this? Right? But he doesn't, right? Why? Where's the blockage? Ego. Yeah. And the universe wants what is best for us if we trust. Again, he's talking the words. Yeah, he can talk the talk, but he's not walking the walk. I see this all the time. And I live in an area where this is almost like a bit of a plague, Sedona area, right? Very spiritual area. But everybody, boy, they can talk the talk, but do they act it? Do they apply it? No, not at all. Completely not. But man, when you listen to them, they just sound like they know everything about everything spiritual. Yeah. They talk the talk, but don't walk the walk. As precisely what we see with Boynal. He's hung up on mundanities, right? He knows he doesn't understand anything, but he doesn't ask questions. He knows the universe wants what's best for us if we trust, but does he go to this new country trusting that things will work? No. He says it, but he can't act on it. Again, fear, yeah, pettiness. Biella response. In that sense, it is alignment with the goal of developing and enhancing awareness and our spiritual growth, which becomes the motivation. Once that alignment is made, it's easy. Ah, what a gift she gives Boynal here, if he's going to be paying attention. Now, this is a typed context, right? It's not a live thing. So he doesn't have to remember it. He can go and scroll through the conversation, right? So that gives her some leeway with not needing to explain everything. If it was in an oral conversation, she would come back to many of these things or elaborate or spell them out or say, ask if that makes sense more than she does here, right? It's pretty obvious, but still, right? In that sense, the sense of um, right? Where was the last thing she said? Trusting whatever we can, right? And immersing in whatever's appropriate and alignment with appropriateness, right? And seeing where it leads to. In that sense of this alignment, it is, and with wants and goals and motivations, this is their topic too. It is alignment with the goal of developing and enhancing awareness and our spiritual growth, which becomes the motivation. If you're looking for a motivation, a want, don't look for petty wants, like a girlfriend or money or status or anything like this. If you align with this want, and once that alignment is made, because this is the universe's want, the universe's goal, this is what attunement is all about, is understanding that this is what life is all about. The point and purpose and meaning of life is the development and enhancement of awareness. If you get in tune with that, then life is easy. Yeah, this is very easy, right? It's very simple. And everything in his life is pushing him in that direction. Start listening to yourself. Start acting on what you already know, right? Without application, it's all meaningless. Everything Boynal says is completely meaningless, right? Look at the statement here. It's very profound, right? I think I have been seeking to want. Very profound. And this is what keeps me stuck. Very profound, very insightful. Really, really, really profoundly insightful. Yet I know I understand nothing. Again, profound. And the universe wants what is best for us if we trust. Absolutely profound. I mean, this whole comment here, right? This paragraph is incredibly profound and deeply insightful, but it means absolutely bugger all, completely nothing. Why? Because he doesn't apply it. See, that's why, if you come and anybody who's done Way-of-Impeccability, they hear me said this, I don't know, 1,000 times or I don't know how many zillion times. Without application, it's all meaningless. Boynal is stuck in this belief that because he can say it, because he knows it, it has value. No, it means absolutely nothing. It's like all the people here in this area, right, who can talk the talk. Their lives are a mess. They're not spiritual. They don't have impeccability. They have problems, and like Boynal. They're very much in similar situations to Boynal because they believe that just being able to say it is enough. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's the same thing with memes on the internet. People post meme after meme after meme, the wisdom memes, right? It's all wonderful stuff. It's very powerful stuff. It's like this. I could post this as a meme, just write it a little bit in there. Very powerful meme. Yeah. Fantastic. If somebody's seen, wow, that's really cool. That's profound. Yeah, it is profound, but it means nothing if you don't apply it. Yeah. Biella adds, in that sense, it is alignment with the goal. Oh, we read this, right? And then this alignment with the universal goal. Boynal, I think I understand. You most likely do. But see, that's where he gets stuck. This is his big problem here. He thinks he understands, and he does because he's saying it. But the understanding is not enough. He needs to apply it, right? But also, he's got that doubt, but he doesn't check. He doesn't have that because impeccability is not his way of being. It's not his way of living. Yeah. So for any new noble, any aspirant, if they say, I think I understand. What are they going to do? They're going to do a repeat back, right? It's built into Way of Impeccability. It's how the program is taken. You do repeat backs and you do takeaways. Why do you do repeat back? So that you can confirm that you understand, right? Not just think so. You want to make sure. You don't leave it to chance, right? Doesn't do this, doesn't do this. It doesn't check. It doesn't check. See, lack of impeccability. And of course, what he thinks he understands is so limited compared to what's shared. It's like, yeah, you kind of sort of get it, but not really, right? So he misses a ton here. But again, right? Boynal asked a specific question. He's not coming to Biella to be taught Way of Impeccability or to, have her share this with him and be a participant and a student of it. No. So she has a limited range of what is appropriate from her side, right? She can't presume. Once we know internally we are never going to do anything for crappy reasons, we know that we are never going to be indulgent or want badness, for instance. Yeah. Let me just add that in there. It's right. Or want badness, for instance. We can trust our wants. Well, this right here is another incredible meme right there. Yeah. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I actually will pull it and put it into my quote file. There's so many, but I know I'm just motivated to do this particular one right now. So I will. Yeah. Uh, BN. Once we know internally we are never going to do anything for crappy reasons. No, we are never going to be indulgent or want badness, for instance. We can trust our wants, right? So if I know I cannot want to do anything bad, negative, crappy, indulgent, then whatever I want, by contrast, yes, is going to be I'm wanting it for good and right reasons. So therefore, it means, right? I mean this in our personal definition of badness in the context of appropriateness. Biella smiled at the group. There's a lot there. If you now really were a participant, you'll ask more on this. You'll ask for elaboration, right? But it's enough in the context. You can figure it out if you really make the effort. But what a gift she's giving Boynal. And just anybody paying attention. That's why this chapter is so dense with moreness. That's a moreness sharing. It's self-evident. If you really have paid attention to your wanting and well, you want stuff that's real, you want more, you don't want stuff just, okay, I want to be famous, I want status or crappy reasons, right? Right. And no badness. I can't want badness. That's not possible, right? Like you and Ramsey, you and Norma. I know you well enough to know that you cannot want badness internally, right? In your own definition of badness. So what you want, trust what you want. You're a good person. You can't want badness. You can't want indulgence. So trust what you want. Sometimes your wants are going to lead you to a profound situation, like in this case. Boynal is really deeply wanting to be with somebody, right? Because he's not with his wife anymore, or at least the person he had the child with, the mother of his child. I don't know if he was actually married to or not, right? But he wants that new relationship. Trust that want. It's for the right reasons, but he's afraid it's indulgent, right? He doesn't trust his own wants. And because he trusts his own wants, he can't act on them. It's a gift from the universe. It's that gift of this new person. It's this profound gift that is pulling you, giving you a want to get you to be motivated to get out of your situation. Because when we are stuck, like in depression, the horror of depression is that it robs you of motivation. So you just loop doing nothing, doing nothing, doing nothing, right? This is what depression really is. Not just feeling bad, but it's also the absence of motivation. Yeah. See? But when you can trust your wants, now you've got the gift. So that woman in this other country, and where from he is, I mean, man, what a gift for him. But he doesn't see it in the context of anomalies and the universe and appropriateness, right? And attunement. Yeah? I mean this in our personal definition of badness in the context of appropriateness. Biella smiled at the group, asking for allowance and leeway with her expression. Now, it's very subtle, the expression here, so we just have to kind of say, well, not all that different to me, but I guess if you're very intimately familiar with Biella, you'll know it's slightly different. So it's not critical to the story much. Illumina help. These types of conversations are immense gifts, capital G gifts, but only if we allow them. Allow them in every sense of it. Allow them to happen. Allow them space. Allow them time. So yeah, Illumina is furthering what Biella says. And in the context of the greater story, the book, Illumina is and Biella are sharing the new nobility. They're coming from the same place, right? So it's like Illumina is kind of an extension of Biella in this circumstance here, right? From the bigger context point of view. She's saying the same thing, just in a different way. Right? This is too fantastic here. And this is also not just with gifts, but with capital H hearing, right? We allow them in every sense of it, allow them to happen, allow them space, allow them time. Yeah. Allow them to flow and develop as they must. Conversation. Look, she's talking about conversations here, right? These conversations are gift. So we need to make space in these conversations. You know, allow them time, allow them to happen, allow them to flow and develop as they must. To give a conversation the freedom to go the way it must. The same thing when you grow plants, right? You give them the freedom to grow as they must. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes you can step in a little bit because for whatever reason the thing may grow inappropriately. Yeah. But in general, when you give plants space, appropriate space, they grow as they must. You don't have to do anything, right? If we look and observe from an abstract point of view, we will see the same pattern in a conversation like this as we do in life or in a period of a life. Holy moly. Just depth, profound depth. Yeah. But we have to trust. We have to be prepared to stick with it, not give up on it, persevere and persist until there is resolution. This is exactly what Biella is doing. She's Illumina is pointing out precisely what Biella is doing for the delegates, well, and for some of the aspirants too. They're probably aware of this already, right? We have to be prepared to stick with it. So in this case, she's demonstrating her perseverance and her persistence, which is part of her impeccability, right? And also, she's applying this, right? She's allowing things to happen. She's allowing space. She's allowing time. She's allowing the flow. To allow things, allow a conversation to flow and develop as it must. Very few people have the discipline and the self-containment to allow this to happen and the independence of being. No, they want to inject their views, their opinions. This is how it must go. No, can't do that, right? So Biella does this and she allows it to go, which when you look at the concept, it's like, man, you allowing Boynal to really repeat himself. How many people do this? Where people repeat regularly, say, yeah, I heard you say that. You've said it a couple of times now. And they kind of shut it down. And, well, it's going nowhere and they shut the conversation down. Like, well, this person's not hearing me. It's a waste of my time. Well, they just repeat themselves, waste of time. They shut it down. They don't let it go where it must, right? But because she does this and she keeps her theme in mind, the layeredness of Biella's just moreness here is off the charts because she started off with the inordinate made manifest. This whole conversation is not only for Boynal, it is for her and the bigger picture of the inordinate made manifest, right? And her greatest story, it's just fantastic, unbelievable, right? Persist, persevere and persist until there is resolution, capital R resolution, until we have something we can take away. Yes, capital T, capital A, one word. This is the concept in the dictionary of power. Something we can actually use and apply. Emphasized, apply. Right? So now I believe that Biella has the voice to text on. So this is shared with Boynal also, right? Illumina's comments, right? I believe so. Uh, but it's a powerful point, right? That emphasis on apply. This is what Boynal needs to hear. Another message from Boynal. The more we plan, the less plans happen how we thought. Yes, according to the great philosopher Mike Tyson, yeah, all your planning goes out the window as soon as you get hit in the mouth. He actually said it. I don't know if that's the exact words, but he actually said that. And it's become kind of a meme. This is a very powerful thing to say, right? Now, all right. Don't know about him being this great philosopher. It's a bit of a joke there, but still, right? It makes the point, right? I mean, yeah. And if you look at like SEALs, and quite a few SEALs have written books about their strategies, how they plan for exactly that. They plan for their plans going out the window. Yeah. The extra depth of strategy. Those SEAL books that they've written, at least a couple of them, are really very cool books, by the way. I've only seen snippets of them. I haven't read the whole book, but from what I've seen a bunch of snippets. So it's more than enough. Just that is worth reading the book for. Like this point of planning, contingency planning for when your plans go awry, right? In other words, they don't use that word necessarily, but they practice and train to be appropriate. That's why all of this is founded on the A plus philosophy. Why, or the philosophy of appropriateness, got two names, right? Either way works, right? It's all about appropriateness. The book starts, the first chapter is all about appropriateness, right? One word, it's called just one word. It's the only thing you need to remember, appropriateness. Just one word. With that, everything can flow from there, especially if you understand how appropriateness works, right? In order to know what is appropriate, you have to know what your motivations are, your wants are, in other words, your motivations, your goals, your objectives, and you have to know the context in which you apply them. Because the same motivation in a different context requires a different way of applying it, right? Different appropriateness. So appropriateness isn't always the same. Yeah. Which is why a lot of people confuse appropriate with proper. Proper tries to say it's the same thing all the time, right? And they want that, they don't like that fluidity, that flexibility, because they don't have enough self-confidence. Yeah. Very powerful stuff. Yeah. Another message from Boynal. The more we plan, the less plans happen how we thought. Again, he says the profound. I don't want badness. I've had enough of that. He's repeating the obvious, right? So if you don't want badness, he says, I've had enough. Yet I don't want to hurt anyone else either. And this is what's holding me here. So he's concerned with appropriateness, right? He's concerned going will cause hurt for his son. Yeah. So we'll come to this. I don't know if we already discussed this or not. I don't remember because we just, the things, I don't remember from the first part of the, anyway. It takes time for things to surface and work their way out of the depths of ourselves, Illumina said to the group. She's explaining why Biella is continuing and making space, continuing to make space for Boynal because of this exact point. This is absolutely a core understanding of capital H hearing. It takes time for things to surface and work their way out of the depths of ourselves. Let me add that to my dictionary of power. At some point, I really need to go, and I'm just pulling them sort of randomly without much. I really need to do this. Well, I will not need to, but I need to do this for the whole book more thoroughly. I have random ones sort of here and there all over, but I need to pull all these. I mean, I basically the whole book is full of this stuff, so it maybe be so much, but anyway. Biella continued. We come to a point now again too, right? Just a little bit of moreness. Watch how Biella and Illumina uh, uh, balance their sharing, right? How they fill in for the others using perspective shifting, which is the other great tool of Way of Impeccability. Thinking things through to the end is the one major tool, and the other one is perspective shifting to multiple perspectives, right? These are two incredibly potent tools. Just those two will lead you to moreness. Just the application of those two. Biella continued. We come to a point where our inner compass of want is now aligned with everything. Man, oh man, oh man. What a moreness. What an absolute incredible, wonderful, fantastic moreness. Yeah, can you just imagine? Norma, Ramsey, whoever's here, right? Ever listening to this. Think about that, right? When our inner compass of want, capital W want, right? Which means that this is a want that is based on pureness and goodness, not crappiness and indulgence and badness or none of that nonsense, right? And that you can say with impeccability, your impeccability is satisfied that your wants are good and right and appropriate wants, right? No nonsense, no bullshit wants, right? In other words, right? So when your wants are aligned with everything, since whatever we want is always good, is always impeccable, at that point, we can do precisely what it is we want. I mean most precisely and intimately, no matter how illogical it may seem. What a freedom. Isn't this what everybody's always striving for? Oh, I just want to do what I want. And they're looking to be the boss or the leader or the dictator. Why? Because they can do what they want. Or to be president because you can do what you want as a president. Well, of course you can't. It's a complete myth. But this is the ideal. They pursue it. It's fantastic. It's incredible, right? Not realizing that you can have this, but your wants need to be impeccable before you can do what you want. You got unimpeccable wants, this is going to backfire on you. Well, as we see with people like that, it always backfires on them, right? Amazing. Amazing. Again, this is just the profoundness, the depth, the moreness over here. Unbelievable. This is life changing. All of the stuff, as you really apply it, it'll change your life profoundly, profoundly change your life, into moreness. This is life-changing stuff if you apply it. If you really think about it and you apply it, it's very simple. But work it out for yourself. Go over it, figure it out, and it'll be self-explanatory. It'll be self-evident in its value, right? It's like duh. But the problem with duh is it wasn't duh the moment before it became duh. It's only duh once it became a duh. If you go back in time, you rewind the little, the movie of your life, and say, wow, I didn't get it. I didn't get it. Then it became a duh, right? Once it's duh, you can't believe that it wasn't a duh, that you didn't get it. But if you rewind, you can watch yourself. Oh, what the hell? What the hell? What the hell? Yeah, duh. See, it's always that moment of shift there. Very important to be aware of that. Boynal said, it seems totally illogical what I am contemplating to do, but I see it may lead to better things if I do. Again, Boynal saying stuff. Dude, you've got to act on this, right? What is the action that needs to follow? Way-of-Impeccability, new nobility, Nobelia-Living, all about acting on these truths, right? If you don't act on it, it means nothing. I mean, that's very, very profound what he says there. It's like, yeah, but dude, it means nothing if you're not acting on it. Yeah. Why? Now, this is the obvious. Yes. You might say, well, Boynal's being stupid. There's always a good reason why people are being stupid. Ask why, right? As we go a little bit further, we're going to see why, right? This thing with a woman, this is making him feel guilty. That's why. It hasn't been fully addressed yet, but it's there. There's something else that's coming later that also adds to this, right? And he's missing a few things like understanding. It needs to be all about application. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to stop here. It seems like a good place to stop. Yeah. Um, and just my throat's a bit sore. My mouth, actually, my palate. Okay. So that tells me where to go back to tomorrow in case I scroll down here for whatever reason. All right, brilliant, brilliant. Ramsey, Norma, if you're still here, any questions? Norma says, had problem getting to comments. Just thought all these decisions. They don't have a universe or God to ask. Exactly. And this is, well, at least for Biella and Illumina, they do, right? They live in attunement with the universe. This is what anomalies are. But also, she's saying, if you start in Way of Impeccability, Module 1, Session 1, clarity of intent. And when you set your intent and you clear with your intent, you are saying, this is what I want. And when you say, then by setting a clarity of intent, this is what I want. This is what I so want so much that I'm doing something about it. I'm committed to it. That's an intent. It's not just a want. An intent is more than a want, right? That's when you've taken the action and transformed the want into an intent, right? However, when you do that, in addition to being clear about this, right, you've now taken want and transformed it into intent, which means you are applying it, you're committed to it, there's a doing to it. You are also asking a question, right? This is what I intend, but I don't know how to go about it. But I'm doing it anyway, even though I don't know. The anomalies are the answers to those questions which come about where you do everything you can and you say, well, I don't know what else to do, right? And you don't know. When you don't know, anomalies give you the answers, right? So anomalies are the answers to the questions you ask when you set an intent. Yeah. It happens automatically. When you live in attunement, you are always asking questions. Most of the questions you can answer for yourself. When you can't, right? You're always asking, right? And in circumstance, this is what attunement is. It is things arranging themselves to give you the answers. Now, most of the time, it's pretty obvious, right? It's like, duh, you just go with it with attunement. And it's like it's not much to think about. The answers are self-evident. This is the magic of living in attunement, that most of the time the answers are self-evident. You just have to act on them, right? If you're already in the mindset of application, which of course Way-of-Impeccability is all about, right? It's not a belief system. It's tools for deliberate living, right? So this is what Biella and Illumina and aspirants are all doing, right? Now, and Ursula, and one would hope Hyla, I don't know, she's not really signed up to be an aspirant, right? She may or may not, but she ends up going back, so she doesn't, right? Same as Camellia. Although Camellia stays, but Hyla also goes back like Boynal. Anyway, because they're a bit mysterious. Now, the point I'm making is, yes, about the questions here, Norma. They are constantly asking the questions. Attunement is living in the answer to your constant questioning of what you want in life, right? And anomalies are specifically answers which aren't obvious, which aren't theirs, right? So yes, you're quite right. Boynal doesn't have God or the universe to ask. But see, they don't ask in a direct way like with prayer. Yeah. They ask through their actions because they are more focused on figuring it out for themselves than relying on it from elsewhere. Because they are aware that if you ask questions to which you can get the answer yourself, you aren't doing yourself any favors. When you figure it out for yourself, right, then you own it. When somebody tells you the answer, you don't own it. It's like that story I've told many times where I was doing a crossword puzzle and my brother walked by and he gave me the answer. And I said, hey, F off, right? And he was a bit shocked at this. He didn't, he thought he was being helpful. No, you weren't. You were just robbing me the opportunity. I would have gotten it. I would have figured it out. But now that you give me the answer, what's the point of doing the crossword puzzle? The joy is in figuring it out, not in completing the crossword puzzle. See, that's a peculiar mindset. That's like that win mindset, objective focus mindset, right? It's not my mindset. I wanted the fun was being able to figure it out. Whether I completed the crossword puzzle or not, that's totally irrelevant. It doesn't matter, right? So we didn't get that. So this is very important. Why the new nobility know that you can ask God all you like. If it's things that you can figure out for yourself, you're not going to get any answers from God or the universe, right? Doing so is not being helpful to you. It makes you rely on getting answers, which means you never learn to figure things out. You never learn to be appropriate. You never learn to develop the skill that lead to independence of being, right? You become dependent. How is this helpful? Think of your children. Do you do this with your children? No. At some point, you want them to figure it out for themselves. Some people keep their children dependent on them giving all the answers because they're so insecure and they're into hierarchy and dominance. But if you truly love your children, you don't want them to be always dependent on you for answers. No. And of course, God or the universe, with having this infinite, profound love, how could they possibly want this for you? No. That's why even the anomalies, they always come in such a way that you have to think about it somewhat, right? Figure it out for yourself. Yeah. And when you really learn that, when you're being impeccable, there's no such thing as a wrong choice. It doesn't exist. Yeah, very powerful. All right. So yeah, a great comment there. Great comment. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All these decisions, they don't have a universe or God to ask. Exactly. When you live in attunement, you don't even have to ask. You are already in that mode where you're acting on the answers that are already being given you. Don't you, as much as you are able, right? If you just think of you being the ideal parent, as an ideal parent, which the universe and God obviously can be, right? Or Allah or whoever you believe in, doesn't matter, any deity or the universe. I'm not specific to those two, right? As an ideal parent, would you not put everything, make everything available for your children to have the best of everything? Yes, of course you would, right? Yeah. But do they always see it being available to them? Are they aware of it? No, because they're ignorant. That's us. But if we realize that everything that we want is already there, in other words, if we willingly and deliberately engage in learning and growing, right, and we're in alignment, then we're going to notice all the gifts of learning and growing that have been given to us. So we don't need to ask. It's all there already. Yeah. Very profound point, right? So this is the way of impeccability, Nobelia-Living. Again, I want to emphasize, it is not a belief system. You don't have to believe anything. That's rule zero of the rules of sentience, which comes into the story here, right? Belief not required. Any system that's based on belief is a very flawed system, because a belief, by definition, is something that may or may not be true. You're choosing to believe it's true, but it's just a belief. Doesn't make it true, right? And a self-evident sensibility is self-evidently true. You don't even have to go and do much to make it true. You don't have to do a research study and all of this, right? It's self-evidently true. A system that's based on self-evident sensibilities, very easy to connect to, very easy to use. And of course, because the focus here is on use, value, right? Usefulness, pertinence, and relevance to you. It's a fantastic system. No belief required. It's like tools. I don't have to believe that a hammer works. I just have to go and use it. Oh, it works. See? The use makes itself evident. Or a screwdriver, right? Once I know how to use tools, I can build whatever I want to with those tools. Yeah. This is the magic of way of impeccability. It's not a big a system that says, "Hey, here's the house you must live in," which is what most belief systems do. Yeah, but I don't want it like this way or whatever. Right? That's your ideal house, not mine. Give me the tools. I'll build my own ideal house. Thank you very much. Yeah. See, much more potent, much more effective. Yes, I can get inspiration from your house, but I'll customize it to how exactly I want it. Or I might say, hey, yours is perfect. That's exactly what I want. Thank you very much, and copy it. But I know it's what I want, not what you say I must want. Yeah? So this is the power of all of these, everything, like all these points that I'm making, these moreness points, these life-changing points, these self-evident sensibilities that are tools, tools which you need to apply, and that's what's all about application, all about application. That's very different this to what we expect this to be. Most people are so used to being told and told in these belief systems that they cannot recognize when they come across something like Way of Impeccability and the Nobelia-Living, right? Which isn't for everybody, but they can't understand that it's not about trying to push your beliefs onto others, because this is what everybody does. Because that's a superiority paradigm, the ego, the status. You must believe it's mine. This makes me important. I have no interest in being important. Neither does Biella or Illumina or any of the aspirants, right? This it's just not even part of my thinking and language. It's just inappropriate, right? If it was appropriate for me to be important for whatever reason, okay, then I'll do it. But in the greater spiritual sense, no, it's not. All right. On that note, any last questions, Ramsey? I'm not hearing questions or comments from you, Ramsey. I'm glad you come. I appreciate it, but I really like to hear you. Capital H, hear you, Ramsey. Like I hear Norma through her comments. I hear Norma, capital H here. In other words, I hear the depth of her. I hear her soul. I hear her spirit. Yeah. I hear her soul. I hear her spirit.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Oh, who's here? Oh, thank you. Thanks, mate. Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. Just the delivery. I like thanking them, you know. You know, it's amazing. The drivers say they get a lot of negativity from some people swear at them and are mean and rude and nasty. Just, it's that superiority thing. It's an opportunity to be better than somebody else by pushing them down. It's really sad. I appreciate what they do. They make an effort, you know. At least for me, they make an effort. I appreciate them. I guess it works on itself. All right. No more comments. Nothing more there. And questions. Ask, 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 ask. Yeah. You know, especially when you're stuck. If you don't know and you can't figure it out, ask. Yeah. But of course, make the effort to figure it out. Very powerful. All right. On that note there, I shall end. So end meeting. End meeting for all. Yes. All right. See you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.